So safety is one of my highest values. And if I have to share with you why, it's because about 12 years ago, I had a near fatal car accident. And we were on a rally around South America, last vehicle in the convoy of over 100 vehicles, driving through Uruguay on a very remote road with a very good friend of mine who saved my life, an orthopedic surgeon, Mark Human, and I owe my life to that man. And we broke all the rules. We were tired, way tired, driving way too fast on a remote road in very difficult conditions trying to catch the rally. And I was driving. And I flipped the car and I rolled it 6 times, which left me stuck in the car, my head cut from here to the back with a broken neck. And fortunately that morning we'd taken the satellite phone and we put it in the glove box, not normally hanging on where the seatbelt hooks up, which meant we could get someone and call them. And the person we called was a doctor we'd never normally get through. And only through their connections could we get a military helicopter which picked us up, took us to a hospital, and the best neck surgeon in South America operated on my neck to put me back together. So I'm indebted to not only the circumstances, but to everyone who culminated in that experience, bringing back my health and giving me back my life. 2 millimeters from being paralyzed from the neck down. It can happen to anyone, and it happened to me, with all my experience. And I look at that and I think we do prepare. We prepare for the what-if scenarios. I do it on every rally before we go. Joe and I will sit down, we'll talk what are the roles and responsibilities we're going to undertake? How are we going to manage the risk? What are we going to do if this happens? Have we actually got numbers to hand? Do we know who to call? Do we know how our medical insurance actually is activated? Those are the key things which we can put in place, which actually mitigate the risk, which smooth out the problems, because we've actually thought about those scenarios. We've talked about the what ifs. It's not an uncomfortable situation, but it's a dire situation when you landed and suddenly you've got to get a medical evacuation out of a country and you haven't prepared for it. You don't know where the information is. You don't know who to call and you don't know how they manage the process. So when you've got all that information, as I always say, it's what you don't know that you don't know, which you should be afraid of. When you know it, you've actually got information. And the old adage of information is powerful. It is, especially when you control the information that you need for yourselves and your well-being.
It's not only just in our travels, it's a way of life for Paul and I. We are a team in all that we do. Whatever decisions we make, we discuss them, work them through, and we have a game plan. And we encourage people to have those honest conversations and say, when we go on a trip, let's talk about the things that we want and the things that we don't want. What are the things that are going to get in our way? And those are the things that often can be like roles and responsibilities. You don't want the one person feeling like they're doing the driving, they're making the fire, they're doing the border crossings, and the other person's just on the cruise, because the imbalance builds resentment. So let's set out the rules and responsibilities. Who's going to cook? It sounds mundane and ridiculous, but these are the small things that become the big things. And we've seen it, we've experienced it on trips where things have been completely blown up out of proportion because somebody festered and sat on something, and the roles and responsibilities were not clearly defined. What is the vision of the trip? What are we all on the trip for? Why are we here? What do we want to accomplish? What are your expectations? What's going to get in your way? What's going to upset you? Let's clear it now. If you're upset, we all give each other permission to speak out without judgment and without blame. It's about acceptance through understanding, and attitude is everything.
So we build in responsibility and reliability. But when you head off on your trip, the responsibility falls squarely on your shoulders to look after your family, to make sure you're not taking the risks, you're doing the checks. And we can become lazy on a trip. We can become forgetful. We're not going to bother doing something. And when the end result happens, you look back and say, if only I'd done that. So when you're mindful and you're careful and you're saying to yourself, do the daily checks. Why? Because it actually pays off. Check your tires, understand tires and tire pressures. Okay, understand that when you come back walking towards the car, you just cast an eye at the tires. Know your speeds you can drive safely. Weight of the vehicle is critical. We talk about not taking the kitchen sink. We talk about looking at each piece of equipment and is there something light and can I use this for more than one thing? So that's really important mindset to look at. Weight makes it safer, it makes it easier, it's less on the suspension, it's less on the tires. So all of that is a really important mindset to look at. How you access everything in the vehicle is the next big, strong principle to look at. Because if you can't get to your equipment and you can't easily get it, it can compromise. So a good example is if we have to change a spare wheel, tire. But to get to my jack and my warning triangles and maybe my high-vis vest, I've got to unpack 3 or 4 bags, open up 2 or 3 doors. I'm much more exposed. Whereas if I had it packed in a bag behind a seat, I could flip the driver's seat forward, grab that bag, I can do everything I need to, lock the car up. I'm not putting myself out there, I'm being more vulnerable, I'm taking less risk, and I can manage that situation in a much better way. All of that is looking at how we can safely take ourselves across any sort of situation, and then you'll find you'll have less to worry about.
Thank you again, everyone, for following us, for sharing, for your comments, and for encouraging us through your commitment to us through Patreon. And we would ask you to continue your support so we can continue sharing our stories and our experiences and continue the onward journey with us.